Over the course of the last few weeks, one particular question has been asked over the course of, why did I say over the course twice? But you guys are asking one question. Qingyi versus Trigger. Who should I pull? Which one's worth it? Or rather, is Qingyi still worth it? That's probably the better question. Today, I'm going to present this video in the form of 3 questions in order to answer your one question, which technically I'm answering it anyway, but that's really not the point. 1, why is Qingyi or Trigger so important to have on your account? 2, why pull Qingyi if I don't main Haramasa or Zhiyuan? And 3, why would I pull Qingyi when Trigger is around the corner? And based off normal gacha logic, the new unit is almost always better. There's no almost. So before I answer each question, let's break down a little bit about Qingyi and a little bit about what we know or can assume regarding Trigger as the new electric stun unit coming into Zenless. For a small or brief comparison, the gist of Qingyi is that she's going to be a buffer, or rather a stunner who buffs during the stun window, i.e. giving us about 180% damage multiplier, and this skyrockets both types of damage from both forms of DPS. She gives herself a flat 600 bonus attack from the second core skill she has, scaling off her impact, which we'll talk about later. She stuns fastest fork. I think she's the first or second fastest stunner in the game. I still haven't determined if it's her or Koleda. I'm not even gonna lie to you. She's most suitable for the burst style DPSs, Zhiyuan, Haramasa, Ellen, Nekomata, Jane, Soldier 11, and so on. She has nice anomaly buildup. But the one major con that we have right now is that the reward for landing a stun does not equate to the time needed to get the stun. In layman's terms, it just means for the length that it takes you to actually get a stun on an elite or a boss or whatever is not rewarded by the same amount of time, if not double, during your stun window. It's significantly shorter, in fact. And if we move over to Trigger is going to be an off-field stunner, or at least we can assume going to be an off-field stunner based off the fact that she is a sniper. I have no idea how you're going to be able to snipe in somebody's face on field. Like, I guess maybe if we're doing the whole like 360 no scope Call of Duty days, sure, maybe that could work, but I really don't see Trigger doing that, especially in Zenless. And with that fine line of a statement being made, she has to be something different than Qingyi functionally. There's a multitude of different factors, or rather different things that they could do to make her separate from Qingyi. Some of those things being that they could make her a literal DPS character who just happens to stun, or a stun character who happens to spit out a crap ton of DPS. Doesn't really matter how you flip it. You could also potentially stun faster than anyone in the game with the least amount of field time. That part would be major. And so following along that, most stunners have some form of buffing damage windows. Trigger would have to find a way to buff damage outside of stun, or do an absurd amount of damage on her own in order to set herself apart from the current roster. This doesn't remove the ability for her to just be busted though, and still have multiple damage boosting functions overall. Lycaon and Qingyi buff damage during the stun. Koleda and Ambi buff specific types of damage during the stun. Lighter extends the duration of stun while giving specific elemental damage buffs. So Trigger has to find her place in all of that and still be able to essentially be on top, if you will. He's also, again, the whole off damage or off field sniper damage stun thingy, whatever. He has to find some way of being the most suitable, or it sounds like she'd be the most suitable for the DPS characters that work in and outside of stun windows. Soldier 11, Miyabi, Sanbi, Evelyn, Billy, Jane, and even Grace could fall under this line. So now we finally jump into the first question. Why is having Qingyi or Trigger on my account so important? Stunning is the key component to getting access to any DPS agent's largest window of damage. Before Anomaly took off, this was the go-to method for faster clears. The faster you could stun meant the faster you could get access to your big PP damage. However, that's not the case anymore. Right now, stunners have been falling off from the meta. Kinda. This isn't to say that stunners aren't valid or aren't top of the class, but it is to say that the strongest teams in the game really don't care if a stunner is present or not. Moving Miyabi conversations aside for just a moment, the introduction of Astra and the solidification of multiple anomaly teams made it so that these units have access to all of their damage at all times without the need for a stun. As a direct correlation to stunners falling off, so were attackers. Of course, Evelyn is here to bring a new precedent to the public light, but Astra kind of made it all worse. I spoke about this in a previous video regarding Astra being a potential problem for the game because of what she would bring to the table. This is great for players, but bad for the game. And this is just one of those results. Whatever Astra did for attack units to bring them up to snuff, she did double that for Anomaly, because Anomaly benefits from all types of damage buffs currently present in the game. Mind you, we still don't have a specific Anomaly boosting agent on that caliber at all. Despite all of this, both Qingyi and Trigger potentially bring an absurd amount of security to your account with their abilities to stun groups of enemies fast, buff the team out of this world, and do their own forms of damage while holding a large variety of team building options for any given player. So now we can address the second question. Why pull Qingyi if I don't main Haramasa, or Zhu Yuan? And the answer to that is simple: team versatility. Qingyi's core skill being triggered by faction or attack agents means she has strong versatility with any attack DPS team in the game. Think of characters like Haramasa, Zhu Yuan, or even Jane. Through the same core function of hers, she gives the highest damage multiplier in the game during stun, reaching upwards of 180%. And from that, the DPS units like Haru or Zhu Yuan can easily capitalize on high damaging combos ranging from easy to hard whenever they want to. These stun windows are already limited by just a few seconds, so having anything that boosts your damage during that window is huge for these type of agents. They don't care about being on the field outside of these windows most of the time, but the best part is none of that limits Qingyi to only these type of teams. As the community has slowly come to find out, Qingyi works as an amazing middle woman in almost every team comp in the game. Even in teams you wouldn't think her to be the best in, she performs as a second or third best option for players who don't have the #1 premium unit. Qingyi naturally buffs both types of damage for an DPS, can easily mold herself into a strong sub-DPS option thanks to her second core passive. She stuns fastest fork and has combos that perfectly set up the new manual chain attack tech. She's currently like the jack of all trades stunner, except the jack of all trades is competing with everybody else's best option. Yeah, that's not supposed to be a thing. On the other hand, Trigger could have the same conditions, giving her similar options for teams. But now we need to look at two specific factors: faction units and playstyle. We mentioned this earlier about how each type would play, but to make it more clear, a character like Haramasa would not want Trigger as a stun partner because of the fact he doesn't want to be on field outside of his combo setups, usually revolved around stun or anomaly. This is the question everyone should be asking themselves: what type of team am I playing, and how does A or B benefit that team more or less? Trigger would most likely love agents like Ellen, Miyabi, Billy, Soldier 11, or the eventual Sambi coming alongside her. These agents have strong options in and outside of stun windows, which incentivize new types of functions. What do I do when the enemy isn't stunned? What type of combos can I come up with, or how will my rotations look in order for me to timely set up my maximum damage combos once I get the stun? When I do get the stun, am I ready to cash out all of my resources, and how many times can I do that? The concept of Trigger being what she could be and what Qingyi actually does are huge, and leads us into the final question: why would I pull Qingyi when Trigger is around the corner, and based off of normal gacha logic, Trigger would just be better? This answer was technically already given earlier if you combine everything I said, but it's because they perform differently in their roles. An off-field stunner needs a DPS that's going to capitalize their field time as much as possible. Again, these are DPS like Billy and Sambi. An on-field stunner benefits more from a burst DPS during the stun window. So now you think of characters like Zhu Yuan and Haramasa. But then there's an anomaly agent who quite literally doesn't give a fuck. They want whatever is going to work best for them in that team on that day. Trigger might work for both agents wonderfully like Miyabi and Soldier 11, but she might suck hard for Haramasa and Evelyn. Qingyi currently works with everyone and benefits everyone in some way, shape, or form. This entire question of Qingyi versus Trigger solely depends on what teams you're already investing in on your account, not whether or not Trigger will be the new best stun unit in the game. Because as we see currently with Evelyn or even Ellen, if you don't have a team that plays into what she wants, then you're crippling your own damage and using a potentially poor choice as the reason for the character not performing to your standards. Zenless is a game about learned repetition more than it is the standard gacha practices. Obviously, take that with a grain of salt as the umbrella is pretty big. Regardless of all that, pull for who you want or need. The easiest way to think about your decisions is to determine whether or not you're pulling Sambi. She looks like a pair to Trigger, and that could mean those two will be the only ones that work the best together, or it's the start of a new meta. In short, we've played these games before. That's gonna be it for me today, guys. Let me know your thoughts and opinions down below. My light broke. I mean, I'm pointing at the light that works. The light that's above my camera, it's broken now. So there's like half my face. It's always dark. You guys wanna donate, right? You guys wanna give your boy like $149.99 because that's how much an Elgato light costs, then by all means help your boy out. I would love that. Anyhow, jokes aside, I'm not joking about that. I can't say my usual outro because inappropriate for YouTube. Like the video, comment, subscribe. Smell you later.